This is the Fifth Estate winning headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 16th of January 2020 and I am 2J.
I am 2M.
I am DM. Let's take a look at today's headlines.
Yep.
The Daily Nation. Where was RUTO as Uhuru sacked ally? The Standard. Outsider in government. And finally, The Star. Kenyatta elbows RUTO, takes over crucial ministries.
Yes.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of these headlines. I really am.
It might as well be one headline because all three papers are analyzing different angles of RUTO's problems and wars.
Yes.
Wars, yeah.
The Nation is talking about his being absent at the president's speech, the statement of intent.
Yeah.
The Standard is telling us that he was just used as a special purpose vehicle to get Uhuru into power, and thereafter has been ditched. He's outside of government. And The Star is telling us that he no longer has a stake in the ministerial positions that he used to so lovingly share with Uhuru.
Yeah.
One thing is clear, though, my friends, and this is an onslaught on William Ruto. It's actually an assault on William Ruto. The thing is this: how will he respond? You see, I keep asking myself that if you see this kind of assault, there must be an end game somewhere.
Yeah.
The system wants Ruto to react and to respond a certain way. And Ruto, I think, I don't know whether I should advise him or just say it, but I think let me know, because he's a senior guy. I think he's biting the bait. And he's doing that.
He's biting it, or he's about to bite it?
He's biting it. The kind of statements he's been making against his boss, because it's actually against his boss, he's reacting to the aggression that he's receiving.
Yeah.
My view, I think he should just go down, like just
Take
disappear,
Underground,
go underground, disappear, and let Raila make that mistake. But he shouldn't be the one to make that mistake.
I think you're very right.
Yeah.
These headlines or media coverage may be very deliberate, and one of the things or one of the end games could be that they want Ruto to react in a certain way.
Yeah.
The other one could also be choice architecture to lead the public in a certain way in terms of how they think about Ruto. But it may backfire because it also may elicit sympathy. But speaking of how Ruto should react, we were talking earlier about what has happened before with deputy presidents when they have been at loggerheads with their bosses. In the 60s, Uhuru's father, Jomo Kenyatta, was at loggerheads with his deputy, Jaramogi. And Jaramogi reacted the way you're advising Ruto not to react.
Yes, absolutely.
And we know what the end looks like. So
now let me ask you, if William Ruto today becomes president, will he fix his oppressors?
Maybe not. He will have other important things to do. We have a three-part criteria that we use to analyze the headlines. For you, we ask, is the headline topical or is it speculative? Is it repetitive or is it groundbreaking? And finally, is the headline thoughtful or is it just plain lazy?
I'm not impressed with any of the headlines at all.
I'm impressed with the Daily Nation.
I like the Nation.
I feel like the Daily Nation has become like the Standard. They have become sensational. But also, if you notice, this is the second day they have a question mark on their headline, which means that they're allowing themselves to be speculative. But tantalizing at the same time. Where was Ruto as Uhuru sacked ally? This
story is fantastic, and I think we should actually mention to our viewers that this man actually had something better to do than to actually stand with the president and give cabinet reshuffles.
He flew to Sudan
He went to Khartoum to look at chicken, for goodness sake.
Make your money, it's 2020.
And I mean, it tells you a lot about how things have evolved. Who would have thought that two people who used to wear matching shirts and ties would be quite opposed to each other right now?
And with that, the Daily Nation gives us our winning headline. And just like the headlines, we have a three-part criteria that we use to analyze the cartoons for you. We ask, is the cartoon humorous or is it dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And finally, is it effective or is the cartoon just plain lazy?
This is fantastic. And this is a wedding. This is Ndula and the caricature of the groom himself, Uhuru Kenyatta, and marrying William Ruto. and the priest is asking, anyone opposed to this union, speak now. And Raila Odinga with the children, one label BPI, shows up with his hand up.
And the other one is handshake. Handshake is a big boy
And
now.
handshake is a big boy. And just congregation.
And BBI is a baby.
Yeah, part of the groom, one was, this is Aisha Juma, that's Moses Kuria, Kipchumba Murkomen, Oscar Sudi, and Edan Duale. On the side is, now the lady side, is Joho and Waiguru.
And you can see there's a lot of commotion in the congregation,
Commotion.
on the bride's side especially. I don't think this cartoon is an accurate depiction of times because they got married 8 years ago.
I think there's a divorce proceeding on the way.
Actually, Raila is pregnant.
He's pregnant.
With another baby. And he's winking.
I wonder what
He's
what the other baby is.
But these children don't look like Uhuru.
It's a great cartoon despite the...
Unless it's a flashback and he's saying that the groomsman, back then on the 8th of August 2013, was so unscrupulous and cunning and sly that he already had envisioned that he's going to...
Yeah, but what kind of bride grins the way Ruto is?
He's not grinning, he's grimacing.
Holding on for dear life.
Yeah, so that is the Ndula, the standard.
It's a great cartoon. Parking Day, yeah? Standard. Gado has brought the corrupt figures back. Yeah. And here you have the drawings of the fat cat, the vulture, the pig, and the faceless people. And they are eyeing public land. And what the fat cat is saying, gentlemen, this is a perfect time. Kenyans are too busy 2022 elections.
Yeah. It's a depressing cartoon, but I think it's very accurate.
It's true.
It's very accurate.
Yeah.
We are looking left. Yes. These guys are going right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're always so distracted by politics, but Kenyans have an insatiable appetite for politics. And perhaps always will. Yes. But then when people loot, it's too late because we were looking at elsewhere.
I think that's a habit as Kenyans that we need to kick in 2020.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll tell you how in the final thoughts.
I love it.
And the star.
The star. You have caricature of William Ruto in pajamas. And he's there looking so... Oh my God. He's sitting next to Uhuru, who has taken all the blankets and is covering himself.
Sleeping sweetly.
And Ruto's suitcase and everything has been packed. Belongings have been packed by the door. And the caption there is, "He who wants you out doesn't tell you to leave." So in the program, actually, it is "Akufukuzai hakuambi toka."
You know that one, yeah, Tujay?
Of course. You don't know my resolution.
Yeah.
My interpretation of this cartoon actually is that it's Uhuru who packed these bags and put them by the door, not even.
Absolutely.
So he's doing everything to tell him, go away, except saying the words.
And he's not even sleeping. One eye is looking at him.
But Ruto is there. He's so cold in his pajamas, but he's not boarding.
Yeah.
So
I think all 3 cartoons were fantastic today.
I think this one made me laugh the most.
It's great.
But who would have thought he would wear orange and red pajamas? Is also and telling us something.
All right, so we get awarding.
So the star gives us our winning cartoon.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So what is our final thought?
And now our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled "The Power of Habit." Why do we do what we do in life and in business? By Charles Duhigg.
Yeah. Power of Habit. Yeah. Why we do what we do in life and business. Written in 2012. We'll get there, don't worry.
You're just repeating what I said.
It's a habit of mine.
It's a habit.
All right, so before we get into the book, I think I'll just tell a short story that the author gives at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
So he says that he first became fascinated with habits and the science of habits while he was working as a reporter in Baghdad, Iraq.
Yeah.
So he noticed that the US military is the biggest habit formation experiment in history.
Yes.
Wow.
And so while in Iraq, he heard of an officer conducting an impromptu habit modification program in a small town outside of Baghdad.
Yes.
So in the early days of the war in Iraq, Americans and Iraqis were trying to find ways to instill and change habits in the people to instill long-lasting peace. So Duhigg goes to meet this commanding officer, he's actually a major, who had analyzed videotapes of recent riots and had begun to identify a pattern. And he noticed that violence was usually started by a crowd of Iraqis gathering in an open place or a plaza, so like a marketplace. And over the course of hours, the crowd would grow in size. Next, food vendors would show up. That would be followed by spectators who wanted to watch the riot. And then somebody would throw a bottle or a rock, and then all hell would break loose. So the major met with the mayor of this small town, and he asked him a simple request. Can we please have all food vendors kept out of the plazas and the open spaces? And the mayor agreed. So the next time a crowd gathered, the same pattern emerged. The crowd grew in size, the crowd grew restless, the crowd started chanting, and they started to look for food. But there was no food to be found because there were no food vendors. So the spectators left. Those chanting lost all their spirit, and by 8 p.m. everyone was gone. And so the major had noticed this habit that was forming among the community, and he figured out how to influence them in order to change this habit. And so in this book, Duhigg, he looks at the science of habit formation, habit creation, and habit reformation in our lives, in business, and in society. And so he kind of asks us these things. And he says, when you woke up in the morning, what did you do first? Did you go brush your teeth? Did you go into the shower? Did you press the snooze button like I know I did? You get an extra 10 minutes of sleep. Did you put on your shoes, right shoe or left shoe first? Which route did you take to work? What did you do when you got to work first? Did you gossip with your colleagues? Did you check your emails? Did you get a cup of tea? And he says that the central argument of this book is that habits can be changed if we understand how they work. And so he says that all of these things, the routines that we have throughout the day, believe it or not, they are actually habits. And as a psychologist in 1899 said, all of our life is just this mass of habits. And so most choices that we make throughout the day, they may feel like the outcome of well-considered decision making, but actually it is not. They are habits. And all habits, big or small, add up over time and have an impact on our health, productivity, financial security, and ultimately our happiness. And so a habit is technically defined as the choices that we deliberately make at some point and eventually stop thinking about it and just continue to perform it each and every day. So this book draws on hundreds of hours of academic studies, interviews with more than 300 scientists, and research conducted with dozens of corporate companies to explain and answer what it takes to form new habits. And so Duhigg reveals how subconsciously some of these habits we can toss them aside, and eventually they can have a domino effect to end up making our lives better.
Beautiful. My takeaway from this is how habits work. And there's this, it's from a medical case in the States, I think in the 80s, where you have this guy called Eugene. Now, Eugene catches a virus that goes directly to his brain. And then a doctor called Squire.
I suspect it's Squire.
I think I'm trying to say Squire,
but it doesn't matter.
Squire decides to perform some checks on this guy. And on the surface, he looks normal, this Eugene guy. And by the way, he actually recovered. Now, when he goes home, the guy barely realizes. The guy, he can't recall the tasks that he did immediately, all right? And but he can tell you what he did about 2 decades ago, all right? And he keeps repeating what he did 2 decades ago. So there's a bit of a lag. Now, when he's asked, and he was normally taking walks around his house just to get a feel and just to recover. But when he was asked, where did you go, he cannot recollect. But if you tell him, what are you doing
in the 70s?
No, what do you do if you're hungry? He goes directly to the kitchen. What do you want to do if you want to go, take a walk? He actually takes a walk around. Now, they discover that this guy has lost his memory, but at the same time, he keeps doing that which he cannot remember, all right? Now, this Squire doctor decides to test some rats, and this is in the 90s, and he discovers that the human brain is like an onion. Outside, right next to the skull, is a part that actually makes you think. So if June tells us a joke and we laugh, the part that actually makes us laugh is the outer part of the brain. But deep inside the brain is a small golf-like structure, and they call it the basal ganglia. Now, this part stores a lot of the information that we see on a daily basis. Now, he decides to perform some experiments on rats. And it involves having a T-shaped maze. You know, a maze like those ones you see like in English places. And at the end of the maze, don't laugh. The end of the maze is like a reward. It's a chocolate. Now, he decides to do this for a period of 2 weeks. The first week, the rats are covered like with a curtain, and once they hear a trigger, the curtain goes up, and the rats now
they find their way through the maze.
Yes, but they do it slowly, so they start scratching on the walls.
And they're driven by the scent of the chocolate.
Yes, they can smell the chocolate, but they cannot tell where it is. But by second week, the rats know where the chocolate is. Now they find the chocolate, and
so they know I go left, right,
it
go
takes
around,
no time.
and I get there.
Once the thing goes like this, they're off, they go eat the chocolate. Now, Squire discovers that there's actually a 3-part process to habit. The first is a cue that is triggered by a sound. All right. Then is a routine that actually takes you through the maze, and the last is a reward that is a chocolate. Now, that is how habits form in human beings. And I want to ask you guys a question: have you ever heard of a drunk man saying that the car knows its way home? Yeah.
No, not me.
You haven't heard? You've heard.
Yeah.
And I think it is not that the car actually has a brain. It is because this guy has actually mastered his way home, that even when he's drunk, he's actually
his subconscious mind leads him.
Subconscious mind kicks in, and is actually able to get him. There's a cue. The cue is, I don't know whether there's an alarm of the car. He gets into the car. There's a route that he knows.
The routine.
The reward
bed.
is home or bed.
And that's the basal ganglia that is in action, as
basal,
that is.
Yes, it's
well, we are not promoting drinking.
Oh, absolutely. Please take a cab when you are drinking.
And the thing that he says, Hanuba, the thing that he says about the basal ganglia and habit as a result of that is that it's one of the hardest things to break in the human structure. So habits are resilient.
Yes.
So this leads me to the chapter on the power of crisis. So he says that organizations also have habit, collective habits. This is what we call institutional culture or organizational habit, or so on and so forth. And they're good. They're good because people don't have to put as much work into things that they do every day. Also, when somebody leaves, for instance, it doesn't precipitate a crisis. Things go on because there's institutional memory. However, this habit can degenerate into a bad habit, a bad institutional culture. And because habit is the most resilient thing about human beings, it becomes very difficult to break. So the head of the organization could only hope for a crisis in order to reverse it. And he gives an example of a hospital in America, in New England, called Rhode Island Hospital, and it was renowned for responding to level 1 trauma. Level 1 trauma is, for instance, your arm is chopped off. That's where you'll be taken, and
they'll put the arm back on.
They'll put it back on. They had the best intensive care unit and so on and so forth. But as a result of performing this brilliant surgeries, the surgeons there, the neurosurgeons, the plastic surgeons, they became demigods and had such inflated egos. And as a result, they couldn't work well with the nurses, people who are also really important in procedures. So they wouldn't listen to them, they would abscond checklists and things like that. And as a result, what happened? Botched surgeries. Like what happened in Kenyatta Hospital. You go in to have your tonsils fixed and you end up having eye surgery. For you, the wrong side, for instance, the wrong side of somebody's brain was operated on, and eventually the person died. So the crisis occurred when these botched operations became publicized. And this is when the leader saw an opportunity to shift, to institute all those reforms that she wanted to do before, but were rejected because of the resilience of habit. And habits never die, especially by people who benefit from them. Like these surgeons were benefiting from the habit of being demi-kings and queens. But eventually now this lady, what she did, she instituted checklists. She instituted cameras in theater. People were able to anonymously report and things were turned around. This reminded me of a book we've read here before. Naomi Klein and the shock doctrine. The shock doctrine. It's only in time, never waste a crisis. Only in times of crisis when you can institute reforms that were rejected before.
Beautiful.
So that is how to break habits. On a day when we had, why do we have only one paper?
I tossed the other one.
The Nation gave us our winning headline.
Absolutely.
You will not reverse the
boarding.
The Democracy, and the Star gave us our winning cartoon. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on your TV screens. We are on GoTV, Star Times, and Pang Free to Air. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night and see you tomorrow.
Bless.